All right, guys, on this week's Land Beat, we're talking about TSI, but we're going to get into the nitty-gritty details and the specific techniques that were used on this site to create a wonderful woodland scenario. As you've heard us talk about in many other videos, timber stand improvement and the importance of it. We've also broke down a lot of the different techniques that can be used, from direct felling and treating the stump, to girdle and spray, to hack and squirt. There's a lot of videos, so make sure you check them out. But here in this unit, we wanted to give a good in-person look at kind of the progression of different techniques used within the same unit over time. So I'm standing in a unit that had just had a TSI crew come through, and basically two techniques were utilized: direct felling and then the girdle and spray technique. The reason for both of those techniques being used in one timber stand is to make sure that we don't clutter the forest floor with all that debris. We can't go in and treat every single tree that needs to be taken down or removed by direct felling, or we would then either clog up a specific unit and not allow a lot of mobility throughout it, especially when we have larger overstory type trees like the hickory back here that has been girdle and sprayed. So we want to diversify the techniques that are being utilized in that overall timber stand improvement project, the reduction of the canopy, by incorporating multiple techniques to accomplish what you're seeing here. So we've got lots of open canopy, an immense understory that is coming back on this slope, but we're accomplishing it through usage of the girdle and spray and direct felling. And across the food plot from here, we have a unit where it was done a little bit more intensely on the opening up of the canopy, but still a great spot to be able to see that that was accomplished last year. We can see how much sunlight is now in that unit, and some dead standing trees, as well as an immense amount of resprouting from the hardwoods that were cut. So let's take a look in here and then compare and contrast how much mobility each unit is going to have and the intensity of those TSI. All right, guys, here's one of the reasons why we're talking about the multiple different techniques within one timber stand to apply. Here we've got a hickory top that had been felled, and now it's obviously down on the ground. There is a sassafras and a honey locust farther back down the hill as well. You can see that tree top. But the next tree that the crew came to, they came to this buckeye over here, and as opposed to dropping it when we have other treetops in close proximity, you can see this was girdle and sprayed. So whether you're discussing with a crew, or you're managing your own friends and family members, or it's just you out in the timber stand, make sure you're diversifying what cut and technique you're utilizing if you're not trying to put excessive amounts of debris on the ground. You do that, you might inhibit turkey usage, or you might encourage deer to start bedding in an area where you don't want them to bed if you're putting excessive debris on the ground. Now let's hop over where we had a more intense unit and we want deer to be bedded out. Let's look at that understory and its effectiveness of using multiple techniques. All right, guys, we've flipped over to the other side of the ridge. We were first on a north slope, now this is a south slope. So as we've talked about in many other times, we're going to hit the south slope quite a bit harder. And this particular unit definitely was hit harder. There was very few trees in this entire unit. That's about 3 acres. That was of any value. So a lot of trees were girdled, a lot of trees were felled, and the stump was treated. And even with that, as year one coming back, we have an immense amount of growth, an explosion of growth coming back in here. Now the purpose of this, by accomplishing, let's say, more trees on the ground, as well as thinning the canopy that much more, was to encourage deer to bed right here late winter on this south facing slope, with the food plot being right there, which is planted in standing grain. So we have slightly different objectives, but it's pretty clear to see we've got a lot of debris that have been down on the ground. We've opened it up a lot more, still using the girdle and spray technique, and we've got just an immense amount of growth. But having those two different techniques results in different things on the landscape. Therefore, we get selection and preference of what deer do when they use specific sites by what we do and the techniques that we use through TSI. This would be more of bedding thicket, but still using those different techniques accomplishes different goals. Now, to manage this, because we do have a lot of woody regeneration, this is actually going to be a particular part of the farm that receives head fire and aggressive fires. We've got this that is going to blend into a native planting down here, and we've got a food plot up top so we can get aggressive with fire, let that heat come up through that native planting and move through this unit and begin to set back some of this woody aggression. And at the end of the day, from what you're trying to accomplish, make sure when you're doing a TSI project that you've got your end goal in mind and you're choosing the techniques, whether it be direct fell and stump treat, hinge cut, whether it be not hinge cut, make sure you remember is just edge feathering and in a bedding thicket, hack and squirt, girdle and spray, whatever techniques you're using, make sure you're doing it in mind of your end product that you want to create on that. That way you'll have different examples of quality habitat offered on your property. Now let us know in the comments below which is your favorite technique to utilize, and I just want to hear from you guys. What technique through TSI is your favorite?